The doors of the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop swung open, and the rumble of an engine caught everyone's attention. Rolling into the Las Vegas sunlight came a gleaming piece of American automotive history, a 1967 Ford F-100, restored, polished, and radiating old-school power. For the Pawn Stars crew, this wasn't just another customer looking to sell. It was a chance to own a legendary symbol of America's working-class spirit, a truck built tough, built proud, and built to last. The seller, a local collector and gearhead, stood tall beside his vintage beauty. "This baby's my pride and joy," he said with a grin. "All original, except for a few minor updates. She runs better than the day she rolled off the line." Rick Harrison, the shop's sharp-eyed owner and lifelong history buff, circled the truck slowly, examining every curve of its turquoise paint and polished chrome grille. "I love old Fords," Rick said, running his hand along the door. "But when someone says, 'all original,' I start hearing dollar signs, and not always in a good way." The 1967 Ford F-100 wasn't just any truck. It marked the start of Ford's fifth-generation F-Series, a design era that blended durability with style. The body was tougher, wider, and more aerodynamic than its predecessors. It came equipped with a 352 cubic inch V8 engine, delivering a solid 208 horsepower, and a 3-speed manual transmission that gave drivers a hands-on connection to the road. In the 1960s, the F-100 wasn't a luxury ride. It was the workhorse of America, hauling loads, towing trailers, and helping build the nation's highways and homes. Rick knew that kind of history could sell. But before laying down any cash, he wanted the facts. "All right," he said, "it looks beautiful. But I've been burned before on so-called restorations. Let's see what Danny has to say." Enter Danny, the Count, Koker, Rick's trusted muscle car expert from counting cars. With his signature black bandana and passion for classic engines, Danny had a knack for spotting authenticity. As he walked around the F-100, his smile widened. "Now this," Danny said, "this is old-school American steel. You can see the craftsmanship right away, the body lines, the grille, even the stance. Somebody knew what they were doing." Danny popped the hood, revealing a spotless engine bay. "Looks like a 352 V8, just like the seller said. It's not a hot rod, but it's got torque for days. Perfect for collectors who want a piece of the past that still drives like a dream." He checked the VIN, inspected the carburetor, and ran his eyes along the bolts and brackets. "A few things aren't original. New carb, updated hoses, but whoever did the restoration took pride in their work. I'd say this thing could bring $18,000 to $22,000 on the collector market." Rick nodded thoughtfully. "Good to know," he said. "Now let's talk numbers." The seller wasted no time. "I'm looking for $25,000, he declared confidently. "I've got more than that invested between the paint job, engine rebuild, and interior work. I can show receipts." Rick smiled, half amused, half cautious. "I get it, restorations aren't cheap. But here's the thing. Just because you put 25 grand into it doesn't mean that's what it's worth. Originality is everything in the classic car world." He paused for effect. "I can offer $15,000. The seller laughed. 15? Come on, man, that's an insult to this beauty." Negotiations revved up like an engine on the drag strip. Rick pointed out that while the truck was immaculate, a few non-original parts, like the carburetor and interior trim, affected collector value. The seller countered with $23,000, arguing that the Ford's historical importance and condition made it worth every penny. Finally, after several rounds of back and forth, Rick extended his hand. "I'll tell you what, how about $18,500? That's fair for both of us. You get paid today, and I get a truck I won't lose sleep over." After a brief moment of thought, the seller smiled and shook his hand. Deal done. The 1967 Ford F-100 was now part of Pawn Stars history. As the cameras rolled, Rick couldn't resist taking it for a test drive. The powerful V8 growled to life, echoing off the shop walls. "They don't make 'em like this anymore," Rick said, shifting gears as he cruised down the Vegas Strip. Back then, a truck was built to work hard, not just look pretty in a driveway. Back at the shop, Corey, Big Hoss, Harrison and Chumley gathered around to check it out. Corey, ever the realist, wasn't convinced. "Dad, we're not a used car dealership. What's the plan? Park it out front and hope someone with 20 grand burning a hole in their pocket walks in?" Rick smirked. "You'd be surprised, son. There's always someone out there who wants a piece of the past. To make sure the F-100 fetched top dollar, Rick called in a detailer to give it a showroom shine. The chrome gleamed under the Nevada sun, the leather bench seat looked brand new, and the truck's reflection sparkled in the shop windows. When the job was done, the Ford looked like it had just rolled off the assembly line in 1967. Word got out quickly. Tourists stopped by to snap pictures, and locals admired the truck parked proudly outside the gold and silver pawn shop. Within a few days, a classic car enthusiast visiting from Arizona took notice. After a short test drive and inspection, he made Rick an offer, $22,000 cash. Rick didn't hesitate. The sale went through smoothly, earning the shop a tidy profit and another memorable win for Pawn Stars. But what made this episode stand out wasn't just the money. It was the story, the way a simple, hard-working American truck connected generations. The 1967 Ford F-100 wasn't about luxury or speed. It was about reliability, craftsmanship, and pride, the same qualities that built the American dream. For fans of Pawn Stars, hitting the gas on a 1967 Ford F-100 perfectly captured the show's magic, a mix of history, negotiation, passion, and preservation. Every episode tells a story, but this one roared to life with the sound of an American 5.8 and the spirit of a bygone era. As the credits rolled, Rick looked back at the now empty parking space and grinned. "That's the thing about history," he said. "You can't keep it forever, but you can always make a good deal on it." SEO description: Rick Harrison and the Pawn Stars crew strike a deal on a beautifully restored 1967 Ford F-100. From expert appraisals to a roaring test drive, discover how this classic American truck became one of the most memorable buys in Pawn Stars Season 2. Keywords: Pawn Stars 1967 Ford F-100, Pawn Stars Ford Truck Episode, Rick Harrison Classic Car, Danny Koker Counting Cars, Pawn Stars Season 2, Ford F-Series History, Classic Car Restoration, Vintage Trucks, Las Vegas Pawn Shop Deals, History Channel Pawn Stars. Tags and hashtags: Hashtag Pawn Stars, #Ford 100, Hashtag Classic Cars, Hashtag Rick Harrison, Hashtag Counting Cars, Hashtag Vintage Trucks, Hashtag American History, Hashtag Pawn Shop Deals, Hashtag History Channel, Hashtag Car Restoration. After sealing the deal and selling the 1967 Ford F-100 for a tidy profit, Rick Harrison leaned back behind the counter of the world-famous gold and silver pawn shop with his signature half-smile. "That," he said to Chumley, "is how you turn steel into gold." But behind that quick quip lay a deeper appreciation, a respect for the craftsmanship, culture, and timeless design that made the Ford F-100 more than just a vehicle. It was a living symbol of mid-century America, one that resonated with both collectors and everyday fans. Of Pawn Stars, the truck's story didn't end when it rolled out of the shop. In fact, that was just the beginning. The buyer, a vintage car enthusiast from Arizona, later sent photos of the F-100 cruising through the desert highways, sunlight bouncing off the turquoise paint as the V8 purred like a well-fed lion. Rick proudly pinned one of those photos in his office, a reminder that every great deal has a story behind it. A look back: the Ford F-100 legacy. To understand why the F-100 mattered so much, both in the show and in American culture, you have to rewind to the late 1960s. The Ford F-Series had already built a reputation for toughness and reliability, but the 1967 model represented a turning point. It was designed not only for farmers, contractors, and working-class families, but also for the growing number of Americans who wanted a truck that could handle the job and look good doing it. The body was newly styled with smoother lines, a roomier cab, and more comfortable seating. The twin I-beam front suspension, a Ford innovation, provided a smoother ride without compromising strength. Under the hood, buyers could choose from a straight 6 or one of several V8 options, including the now iconic 352 cubic inch engine, the very one sitting inside Rick's truck. In the late 60s, the F-100 was part of a changing automotive landscape. Pickup trucks were no longer just tools, they were symbols of personal freedom, power, and identity. Families used them for camping trips, entrepreneurs used them for business, and teenagers dreamed of cruising in one on Saturday nights. The truck that arrived on Pawn Stars wasn't just a collectible, it was a time capsule from an era when American roads were wide open and dreams were built on horsepower. Behind the pawn shop curtain. Inside the shop, the deal sparked lively debate. Corey Harrison, Rick's son, admitted later that he didn't think the F-100 would sell so fast. I thought it was cool, sure, he said in an interview, but cars take space, they take time, and they're a gamble. I didn't expect it to flip in days. Chumley, on the other hand, couldn't stop talking about the truck's color. That turquoise paint. Dude, that thing looked like candy, he laughed. If I had the cash, I'd have bought it myself. Rick, as usual, had the last word. You can't run a pawn shop without taking a few risks, he said. That's the fun part, finding the balance between business and passion. The Pawn Stars crew has always thrived on that balance. Every item that crosses the counter, whether it's a Civil War musket, a rare coin, or a 1960s truck, tells a story about human ingenuity, history, and value. The F-100 just happened to bring all three together, wrapped in chrome and American pride. A truck that still turns heads. After the episode aired, fans flooded social media with comments. Car enthusiasts praised the restoration, while casual viewers admired how Rick and Danny handled the negotiation. That Ford looked brand new, one fan wrote. I can't believe they let it go for under 20 grand. Others saw it as a reminder of simpler times. My dad had a truck just like that, another viewer posted. Seeing it on Pawn Stars brought back so many memories. Even Danny, the Count, Koker chimed in later during a Counting Cars segment. That F-100 was one of the cleanest I've seen come through their shop, he said. The restoration wasn't perfect, a few modern touches here and there, but it had soul. That's what matters most. Rick's purchase also sparked renewed interest in vintage Ford pickups. Collectors began scouring auctions, classic car lots, and online listings for similar models. Prices started climbing, proving once again that Pawn Stars could influence trends far beyond the walls of the Las Vegas pawn shop. Lessons from the deal. Every Pawn Stars episode offers more than entertainment, it's a lesson in business, history, and human behavior. From the 1967 Ford F-100, Rick and viewers learned several key takeaways. 1. Authenticity matters. Even the smallest modification, a replaced carburetor, a new dashboard, or a non-original paint color, can shift a vehicle's collector value. 2. Restoration is a double-edged sword. A perfect restoration can enhance beauty but sometimes reduce historical authenticity. 3. Emotional value versus market value. Sellers often attach personal emotion to an item's worth, while buyers look strictly at numbers. Rick's calm, logical approach kept the deal grounded. 4. History sells. Items that tell a clear story, like the evolution of American vehicles, always attract attention. Rick summed it up best in a post-show interview. You're not just buying metal, you're buying a story. The trick is knowing what that story's really worth. The Ford F-100's enduring spirit. Today, decades after its debut, the 1967 Ford F-100 remains one of the most beloved trucks in automotive history. Collectors prize its design, restorers love its simplicity, and fans cherish the nostalgia it brings. At car shows across the country, enthusiasts still gather to swap stories and show off their F-Series pride. Many modern trucks owe their DNA to this classic model, from its suspension engineering to its bold styling cues. Even Ford's latest F-Series trucks, the best-selling vehicles in America for over 40 years, trace their lineage back to the humble yet iconic F-100. In that sense, when Pawn Stars featured the 1967 Ford F-100, it wasn't just about making money. It was about celebrating the enduring craftsmanship that built the nation, the idea that true value comes from hard work, authenticity, and legacy. A lasting impression. Long after the deal was made and the truck drove off into the desert sunset, the episode remained one of Season 2's standout moments. Fans revisited it on reruns and online clips, praising how it combined negotiation drama with genuine appreciation for classic Americana. The image of Rick standing beside that turquoise F-100, arms crossed, grin wide, and history humming under the hood, became a symbol of what Pawn Stars does best, preserving stories one deal at a time. As Rick himself said at the end of the episode, everything in this shop has a story, but some stories just have better engines. SEO description. In Pawn Stars S2 hitting the gas on a 1967 Ford F-100, Rick Harrison and his crew take on one of the most iconic American trucks ever built. From the history of the Ford F-100 to the art of negotiation, discover how this classic ride became a symbol of legacy, craftsmanship, and profit. Keywords. Pawn Stars Ford F-100, 1967 Ford F-100 history, Pawn Stars classic truck, Rick Harrison, Danny Koker, Counting Cars, Ford F-Series legacy, Classic Car Restoration, Pawn Stars Season 2, Vintage Trucks America, History Channel Pawn Stars. Tags and hashtags. Hashtag Pawnstars, #Ford100, hashtag Rick Harrison, hashtag Classic Cars, hashtag Vintage Trucks, hashtag American Muscle, hashtag Counting Cars, hashtag History Channel, hashtag Car Restoration, hashtag Pawn Shop Stories.